Are you failing to get good grades despite spending a lot of time studying? And do you want to become a top student and achieve academic success? If so, then you're in the right place. In this video, I'll be sharing with you some surprisingly easy and quick study techniques and study tips that you can use to improve your grades. So stay tuned till the end so that you can learn about all the tips and tricks that you can use that can make a real difference in your academic performance. Now, when I was planning this video for you, I wanted to make sure that it actually helped in some way and you learned something from it. So I thought it would be great to tell you about all the best study tips to become a top student through a similar experience you might be going through. Let me introduce you to John. John was in a position that may be similar to the one you're in. John wanted to get better grades, but even spending a lot of time studying, he could not produce the results. John became frustrated. But after a usual test that his class went through, he decided that he could just ask a top student for some advice. And in fact, the first tip here in this video is to ask the best student in your class for some advice, because you get the information that I'm going to share with you and the information from the best student that you know. The student first asked John how he currently studied.
Oh, no.
John, to be honest, was studying quite passively. He would be doing things like rereading his notes, procrastinating, not using flashcards properly, etc. Are you doing any of these things? And the top student gave John some of the best study tips to help him get better grades. And as soon as John implemented these study tips, he started seeing an improvement in his grades. This is where it might be useful to take some notes. John had to work on two key areas: study habits and study techniques. First, I'll talk about the three study techniques. I'm going to study techniques first because it doesn't take that long to implement them. These three study techniques were to do with note-taking, active recall, and using the specification. The first thing John had to solve was the way he used his notes. The thing is, notes are a great way to summarize information, but they also need to be somewhat presentable to the brain. That would make them the most effective. John's notes were not presentable. So the first solution is to find the best way for you to write your notes. For example, the student recommended using Cornell notes, mind maps, and outlining. To see what works best for you is to just try them all. For the notes themselves, only write down the things that you can't remember, because it's pointless, really pointless, to write down things that you can remember. Also use lots of colour instead of just blue and black alone. That way your brain is a bit more interested in the notes and the actual content within the notes. And instead of just rereading notes to revise, the student offered the next study technique: active recall. This process involves trying to recall the information from your memory instead of rereading your notes or reviewing your notes. This is seen in stuff like practice questions, practice papers, and flashcards. For the flashcards, John would tend to write a lot on his flashcard. A bit too much, in fact. Instead, the student recommended to be a bit more concise on the flashcards and only go over one concept per card, and also use diagrams so that it becomes a bit more memorable. And in fact, you can also add diagrams to your notes. Also, using apps like Anki and Quizlet can be really useful because they introduce another study technique called spaced repetition. This involves reviewing information over a long period of time with increasing intervals between each study session, and this can help with long-term retention. In terms of practice questions, this was the single best way for the student to revise, and it works because you're moving information from your short-term memory into your long-term memory, hence retaining the information. Also, using practice questions can sort of highlight what topics you can't quite recall, so sort of tells you what topics you should try and spend more time studying on. If you get a question wrong, add parts of the answer or the full answer to your notes and make it stand out, so when you come to flick through your notes, your brain recognizes it and it gets reminded of the information. You can find these practice questions and practice papers and past exam papers on websites like Physics and Maths Tutor and Save My Exams, or even in textbooks. The final technique is to use your specification. This is the document that stores all the information about the course, everything you need to learn about, and so everything you need to know for your exams. So focusing your notes on this can help ensure that you cover everything that is actually important. In many textbooks, the specification points can be listed like at the start of a chapter, or even in terms of learning objectives. So making your notes on these can help save time and improve your grades. And trust me, it does make a massive difference. But study habits are also essential. The 3 study habits that John began to implement were to do with focus, consistency, and understanding. Let's go more in depth. The first thing John would struggle with was focus. He would procrastinate a lot. Sounds familiar? The student said that this was in fact normal, and there were a couple of ways to deal with it. But everyone is different, and different ways will work for different people. If you struggle with focus and often procrastinate, try to break down a large task into smaller pieces. These smaller pieces are a bit more manageable than this large overarching task that seems quite daunting. This way, the whole task will be easier to tackle. Also, setting some goals for your study session can help add a bit more structure to it and also give you some study motivation. This will help make it a bit easier to focus on what's actually important. Another massive problem that John had was that he would spend a lot of time studying but not see results. Well, the solutions that I've mentioned throughout the full video will help with the improvement to your grades, but time is a different matter. The student said that a simple way to spend less time studying, which also means less stress and procrastination, was to be more consistent. You should try study over a longer period of time. For example, let's say you've got an exam coming up. It's on Monday, let's say. A bad idea would be to spend your full day studying on Sunday. But instead, if you spend studying across a full week, you would instead spend time, let's say an hour each day studying, instead of a full 8 hours studying on Sunday. So in our example, we did an hour per day, which would be 7 hours across 7 days. Cramming would result in 8 hours in one day. Less time studying, less stress, less procrastination. This would also be so much more manageable than cramming on Sunday. The final study habit that John began to implement was a tricky one, but would be very beneficial. The student told John to try and understand a topic first before trying to memorize it. You see, when you try and understand a question, or even try and explain it in simple terms, it can be much easier to memorize and apply to a question. Here is how to understand something, using photosynthesis as an example. This is going to be a bit A-level content, so if you're GCSE, don't panic. Start with the basics, like familiarizing yourself with key terminology. Then ask questions, like what is this concept trying to explain? Break the concept down to make it easier to understand. Use diagrams to make it easier to visualize, and link it to other topics, or complete practice questions as we mentioned above. John was feeling much better because he realized that he was missing quite a few things that the student mentioned. He started to implement the things that the student told him, and slowly he started to see an improvement in his grades. I know that you can get better exam results, but I do understand that you've been trying a lot, but there is still time. You clicking on this video proves that you still believe in yourself and you're not ready to quit, are you? Just remember what I talked about in this video, and hopefully you made notes, and just apply it. And if this is your first time here, I'm Soumya, and I'm here to tell you how to improve your exam results by sharing study tips. If you like that sort of stuff and want to improve, why not consider subscribing to keep up with the latest and let me help you. If you want additional and new study habits, then click this video right here, and there might be a secret at the end of that video as well. So hopefully I'll see you in another video. Bye bye.